It's nice to have someone to confide in, but getting vulnerable with the right person can be tricky. Joining us now with tips on why it may be good for you to find someone to talk to outside of your inner circle is the CEO and co-founder of Listeners on Call, Cole Egger. Welcome to the show, Cole.
Thank you. Appreciate having me on.
So talk about the benefits of talking to someone you're not close to or someone who's outside of your inner circle.
Sure. I think everyone can benefit from the opportunity to connect to somebody who's walked in their same shoes or has gone through a similar experience before, and it certainly makes it more comfortable in being vulnerable and open up and sharing.
Can you tell us more about Listeners on Call and how it can be a helpful resource?
Sure. Listeners on Call is a network of trained listeners, primarily made up of social workers, teachers, nurses, caregivers, and others who come from a profession with a strong background in empathy, who are available anytime to anyone should you need to connect. So we've often been coined the Uber of empathy, if you will.
The Uber of empathy, I like that. Now, talk about how connecting with someone who maybe shares a similar experience or who can also relate and provide that empathy, how is that therapeutic?
Sure. Myself and my personal experience and kind of how we got here today with Listeners on Call is a few years ago, my father had been diagnosed with cancer. And unfortunately, out of the 18 million stem cell donors in the donor bank today, there wasn't a match. And so I actually wound up being the half match. And that weighed pretty heavily on me. It was a pretty lonely time. And the idea that if my stem cells didn't work, ultimately my father wouldn't make it. And I was very fortunate to be able to connect with a lady here in Dallas who was not a licensed therapist, but had gone through a similar background experience, and ultimately really kind of changed my life at that time, being able to be vulnerable and share what I was going through and knowing that she had been through something similar.
Yeah, I agree. It's always nice when you have someone that you can talk to when you feel like they understand what you're saying. Right now, so much of our human connection depends on virtual chats and using technology to be in touch with people. Does technology digitally connect us without providing that human connection of empathy, though?
Well, I would have to say there's a tremendous amount of research and data out there today that suggests that social media and others provide an opportunity for isolation and disconnection without the true understanding or connection of human connection. And so that is an area that we really focus on is that human compatibility and human connection when you are willing to open up and share and be vulnerable.
Can technology still provide a feeling, solution, I should say, to feelings of isolation?
I think so. I mean, that's absolutely why Listeners on Call exist, is that there are millions of individuals today who have all gone through experiences that are likely very similar in a situation that you're currently living in. And so the idea that on demand you have the opportunity to connect with somebody who's been there before is extremely comforting, and feels it feels very unique in the ability to be able to connect with somebody who's been there before.
And you talked, about your personal experience and what you went through and how you found someone to talk to. What about the impact of a support group? What kind of support does that provide to those who are feeling disconnected?
Yeah, I think it's very similar in nature, is that the idea that you have the opportunity to connect with somebody who has walked in your same shoes is certainly very comforting. And I think it allows you as an individual to be vulnerable and share what it is that you're going through.
So, Cole, if someone is calling and to speak to a listener, is your information going to be confidential? I mean, are they going to be able to know who you are?
It is. Our platform exists such that on both sides of the equation, the caller and the listener are both anonymous so that your information is never revealed. We really focus on removing stigma as one of the big factors today in an individual being able to reach out and ask for help. And so we remove that, as well as kind of the cost, convenience, and compatibility barriers that exist.
And if we talk about the people on the other end of that call, if someone wants to become a listener for this program, can they? What do they need to do? What are the qualifications?
Sure, absolutely. You can go to Listeners on Call and sign up to become a listener. We have a training curriculum called Connected Listening that every listener completes prior to serving as a listener on the platform.
That's great. And I'm sure right now in this particular time, are you finding that a lot of people need a service like this?
Absolutely. It's very unfortunate what is going on today with COVID, and certainly we all are experiencing a tremendous amount of isolation. And we want everyone to know that there's someone there to listen and someone there to connect with, should you feel lonely or in a time of need.
Very good. Cole Egger, we appreciate your insight and for joining us today. If you want to learn more, go to listenersoncall.com. You can also get the app on the App Store and Google Play.